All right, welcome everybody to today's event. My name is Jessica Wright, and I have been with Corning for about 6 years now, working mostly with the campus and events teams, and I also manage our talent communities. A few housekeeping notes. Everybody will be placed on mute, so we ask that you remain on mute for the duration of the presentation. This is a Q&A session, so we want it to be interactive. Please put your questions in the chat. We started with just kind of a little icebreaker to see where everybody's sitting and which of the videos that you really enjoyed. A little bit about our presentation today. Corning has been using Six Sigma DMAIC officially since 2003, but Corning's quality journey has been ongoing since 1983. Currently, there are 50 master black belts at Corning, and the Six Sigma DMAIC has saved more than $3.5 billion over 12 years. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the videos we sent out, which of Corning's performance excellence model, DMAIC methodology, and the key tools used in each of the methodology phases. In today's Q&A, you'll be able to ask some of Corning's esteemed master black belts questions on the Six Sigma process. We have Stephen Kapper, Rebecca Bryan, Hideki Misaki, and Amy Ryder are joining us today and are looking forward to answering your questions. So with that, turning it over to our panel, please feel free to introduce yourselves and tell the group a little bit about your background and experience.
Who's first? You should go first.
You gonna go, Steve?
Sure. Probably because I'm the oldest, right? No, seriously, I've been with the company 28 years. Prior to that, I worked with GE 11 years in 2 of their divisions. Aircraft Engine Group, and as well as what they call the Apparatus and Engineering Services, which was a division that repaired, installed, and maintained GE heavy equipment. And I only tell you that because I was first introduced to, we called it continuous improvement and total quality management back in my GE days. Both of those businesses are incredibly unforgiving. I mean, you can't have a jet engine or a gas or a steam turbine that's almost right or shuts down inadvertently. So that company really lived and embraced it. And when I came to Corning, actually when I was looking for another employer, I said, I'm only going to work for a company that truly embraces total quality management. And I thought at the time, back in '92, that Corning did that. And I've never been disappointed. Now, that's not to say that we're perfect. We are not a perfect company, but we recognize that, and we recognize that we have to improve things. So I was first introduced to this when I was working in manufacturing. I have an engineering background and an MBA in operations and finance. But I have a very convoluted career path, and sometime if somebody wants to talk about it, we can talk about it. I ended up in corporate HR because they were looking for people who embraced PECs and could implement it, who could run projects, and who were quantitative. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. So here I am 14 years later, and I absolutely love what I do. I have a great boss and a great organization, and I think I have a really good company. So I'm a Corning Certified Master Black Belt. I'm also a Certified Project Manager through the PMI Institute. And I think that's enough introduction. All right, Hideki, Amy Jo, who's next?
I can go next. If you're going by age, I'm probably the next oldest.
So, I say that with pride. Remember, I'm proud.
I know. So my name is Hideki Misaki. I'm an engineer in a corporate engineering organization. I'm in a group that actually sit in Sullivan Park, which is our R&D facility. So I get to work on a lot of development projects, which is kind of neat because every year, 2 years, I get to work on something new that's coming, and then help transfer it to pilot or manufacturing or plant, whatever is needed. My background is mechanical engineering. I got my degree from MIT in 1989. And so I've been working with Corning ever since. So that's 31 years. In fact, my anniversary day was July 10th, which was a couple of days ago. So I started my 32 years. I always thought that I was going to go back for an advanced degree sometime, but it just seemed like Corning just kept me busy. So here I am 31 years later, I'm still working. I started in a manufacturing plant in actually State College. I saw a couple of Penn State folks there. We have a State College plant that made big TV glass tubes and panels, what we call them. I worked there for 7 years. We built a new plant in Pittsburgh with Sony for 3, so I worked in that division for 10 years. Quality journey. So back when I started, actually my first couple of years in that State College plant, it was on a decline. They were always also talking about at the time maybe closing the plant, but we had a new plant manager that came and turned the plant around, and then we really did well after that. So that's where I really got a first, I guess, taste of quality journey. Jamie Holden, who was the CEO back then, was very stressed making quality parts. But I don't think I really appreciated it until I went to work in that new plant that we built with Sony. And the Sony brought in a Six Sigma program, and I learned a lot more about how you go about doing things. So I still have a button from there that I keep and I bring to any class that I teach, which says, show me the data. It's about data, collecting data, analyzing data, and being honest about your analysis and sharing that data and making your direction. So that would be, that's kind of what I took from that and then built on it. I was able to work on some Six Sigma projects early on. Once I came to Corning, New York in 2000. And I'm not certified. I'm trained master black belt. So right now I'm trying to make sure I stay with the community and help out as much as I can, stay in touch with programs, because I don't typically run programs anymore. My projects are usually short. I do get to use tools for improving the process and equipment. So that's how I stay current. But thanks for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
Becky, did you want to go next?
Sure, why not? So Rebecca Bryan here. I've been with Corning for 15 years. I started fresh out of college. I graduated from Alfred University with a material science degree. And from there, I went into Corning's R&D facility, and that was up at Sullivan Park. And that was my first exposure to performance excellence and the DMAIC content and journey. You would think in R&D, research and development, you would want to have flexibility, but you also need some level of rigor. And we have a lot of processes that support our research. And if we don't have consistent processes to support our research, we could have errors introduced. And then from there, I continued my journey into manufacturing, where I was a process engineer. I used the DMAIC methodology, lean, all of the different varieties to help improve my process. I owned 3 processes, doing yield improvements, throughput improvements, you name it. And from there, I've moved into environmental technologies, and now I'm in the MT&E organization. So I'm actually in the quality and statistical engineering group within our MT&E group, and I do more project support work. Okay, Amy Jo.
Thank you. So hello, I'm Amy Jo Ryder, and I'm with Corning for 19 years. Graduated with a bachelor's in math from Alfred University, and then taught middle school mathematics for 3 years before going to Penn State. So I see some PSU people here, awesome. For a master's in industrial engineering and operations research. And then worked at Xerox for a few years before joining Corning. And since being with Corning, I've had roles from statistics engineer to process product leader to engineering supervisor to plant quality manager, and currently I'm the industrial and lean engineering manager in MT&E, and that's Corning's corporate engineering group. So quality journey, so started learning about quality, Six Sigma and lean in school, but then also at Xerox. And since being with Corning, I've implemented lean at the New Hampshire site when I was there, and then also was a lean champion at the Irwin plant, site champion again at the Fairport plant, and am now in corporate engineering and the division champion. So excited to see all these questions coming in. Jessica, do you read these too, or do we just kind of jump in?
Yeah, either works. So I can read them, and I'm kind of copying and pasting, so in case people keep commenting or adding questions, they don't get lost. So I can start with just at the top and start reading them. So the first one is, are there any tips for fostering good brainstorming, and what should team leaders do when consensus is hard to find?
I can start. This is Steve. Brainstorming can be incredibly effective because it can pull creative ideas and information out of your team. The big downside of brainstorming is that if you use the free-form method, the talkative people can tend to dominate, and those people who are a little bit more on the quiet side don't get airtime. So one suggestion, I've actually used it on multiple teams. I had one team that was phenomenal, except I had two people who didn't understand that other people also needed to talk. So what I would do is if I had a topic, I would make everybody write down what they wanted to say or what they were thinking, and then we would go around the room once so that everybody got some airtime. It used to drive those two nuts, but everybody else on the team would really thank me for it, because then we would ensure that everybody got their airtime. So it depends on, you know, the team and the makeup of your team and the dynamics. Now, consensus is really decision making. So it's one thing to get all these great ideas out, but then you have to come to an agreement on what you're going to do. Consensus by design is incredibly hard to do because you really want to make sure everybody's been heard and everybody can agree with the decision. It doesn't mean you get your first choice, but it means when you walk out of the room, you say, yep, I agree with it and I will support it. And that can be very time consuming. So you need to pick those decisions that really require consensus versus having, you know, one or two people go off, make recommendations and come back. Anybody want to add anything?
Yeah, this is Hideki. So I agree with Steve about having people write down their ideas first, so that gives everybody a chance to write down and then share. What I also found out with the brainstorming is it's actually not those individual ideas that's actually are the important parts. Seems like when you start sharing and you build up on those and that collaboration and teamwork, I guess teamwork to add on to that, that seems to actually yield actually even better ideas. So those interactions afterwards seems like a much more productive area of the brainstorming than just having everyone just toss in ideas. And the other thing I do is a lot of people do want to do this brainstorming and decision afterwards in the same session. I always separate them because it's actually two different sets of people. Brainstorming, you actually draw from people that are maybe outside of the project, outside of the expertise, because you want some fresh ideas and fresh eyes to look at the problem you're trying to solve. But ultimately, what you're going to be deciding on what to do next is back to the people that essentially ask for the brainstorming. These are the people that are project leaders, project engineers. So it has nothing to do with the people that actually come and give you ideas on. All right, so those are completely two separate activities. So I usually make sure that you do the brainstorming session, you do some organization of the ideas, and then you go and do the decision analysis with just a few people that are key decision makers. I also, for both of them, it seems like, hey, let's jump in and doing the brainstorming. But if you're gonna invite a lot of people, having preparation work to just what Steve said about, hey, there are some difficult people, there are people that are talkative, there are people that don't have great ideas, but they don't usually speak up. Having kind of a makeup and be prepared for those, I think is important too. So obviously you're gonna have these impromptu brainstorming sessions, but a lot of the brainstormings that I facilitate are 15, 20 people. So you do have to put a lot of preparation work into it to be successful. But I love doing them. This is great. I learn new things every time I do them, and I get to be part of it, and it's an exciting process.
Awesome. We have another question. So racy matrices were only mentioned in the analyze section of videos. I've always used them in more of the define stage to help define team responsibilities. Could you elaborate a little on how to effectively use racy matrices in the analyze stage and what they can help with?
You want to take that one, Becky, or do you want me to?
Go for it, Amy Jo.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, go ahead, Amy Jo.
So when you go through all of the tools in Greenbelt and things like that, there are like more than 100 tools out there. And so, and many of them, and every time you use a tool, it depends on what the objective is that you're using it for. So a great way for, and in building the training, it's kind of a challenge of where do you put things. In an older version of the Greenbelt training that we've all taught, there were like 400 slides in Measure because they were putting everything in Measure if that would be the first time you saw it. So where they're put is interesting but not required, because whatever tool you have, it depends on what is the objective of what you're trying to answer. So you can use a lot of these tools in multiple places. So for example, yes, define. A racy and define, where you're looking to define your roles and responsibilities. That's great in define when you're defining your roles and responsibilities for the whole project. When you get to analyze, you might use the same tool again and say, okay, now we're working on root cause. You may want to update it for who's doing what, who's doing the experiments, who's writing the experiments, who's implementing things like that, who's integrating with the plant, all those kinds of things. And then typically you can do a racy again in control. And that might be more of, now that we have our solution, what are the roles and responsibilities for continuing to sustain the solution that we've developed? So racy is one of those tools that you can use in a variety of different places. Again, and just like control charts, just like communication plans, you can do a communication plan and define for the whole project, and then do another communication plan and control when you are communicating out your results. So it's kind of interesting where things are placed in the training, but fundamentally, any of the tools, it's what's the objective, and you can use them in many different ways and at many different points. Okay, great question.
Awesome. Next question then is, have you ever had a process that could not reach the desired level of performance? What happens to a project if you hit an immovable roadblock?
I'll jump in on this one, and then I'll let others add in their experiences as well. So some projects that I've actually been involved with, we've hit to where we can't improve or reduce out that variability with the tools that we have today. Some of the challenges that you'll see is specifications get tighter and tighter, and your process can only meet a certain capability. What we've done is we've done fundamental understanding initiatives where we've done MEE. That may be a tool that you'll hear about. We've also taken it back to the drawing board of, do we need to redesign our process, or is there something about our product that makes it fundamentally unachievable? Those will usually take a larger scope of people and putting together a proposal of, this is where we're at, really to get to that next step. Here's the project plan of that next phase, has been my experience when we reach those immovable roadblocks, as you put them. Usually there's ways around them, but it takes a lot of engineering to get around them. Does anyone else have experience of where you've actually approached some of these? And other tools you may have used?
No. Okay, we can go on to the next question.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
If you think about that too, when you look at projects and the structure of the projects, you have your project leader, your belt, your team, and you have your sponsor. And the sponsor is really important because your sponsor is that role that connects the project to the strategy. So the whole idea of what it is that you need to do and to make sure that whatever it is you're doing is going to have value to the business and to the company. So when you get to those immovable roadblocks, which might be something about the process or it might be people, there can be all kinds of reasons for that, right? So it's always great to partner with the sponsor to identify root causes and ways to help break through those issues that you might be having. And to be able to, it's best to go with them to be able to say, okay, I'm experiencing this. And then these are the reasons that the team thinks is why, and here's our proposal, a couple options, where would you like us to go? And so really making sure that you're staying engaged with your sponsors so that what you're working on will meet the business's needs and help resolve any issues that come up there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add that, you know, even though we all these processes seem linear, but in reality, things aren't really linear, right? So you're gonna hit roadblocks. You might go back to define the project again. In some cases, maybe you decide, hey, you're trying to solve the wrong problem and stop it there. So, you know, you're going to have a lot of iterations and loops and going back and forth, and that's okay. It's not meant to just go from one to the other. If you find new information, you discover new, you know, roadblock is another piece of information, data. It's okay to go backwards and say, let's correct this and start over. So it's very organic.
All right, thank you. I will move on to the next question. So can you share some of the most exciting projects that you have been a part of?
Hey, Jessica, there's also a question up higher that says, are there any drawbacks to Six Sigma processes? And I'll have you work to mitigate them.
Got it. Okay, I can ask that one next.
Yeah, maybe we should, you know, so we don't lose sight of any of them.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to start with that one, Steve?
Oh, drawbacks to Six Sigma processes? Yeah, absolutely.
Too, so yeah.
So it can be incredibly effective if it's geared to solving the right problem. Hopefully you've seen that slide that's posted on this SRA, the Solution Roadmap Assistant. And we talk about different types of methodologies because they're designed to solve different types of problems. In the Corning space, I think 80% or more of our projects end up being DMAIC because we're trying to solve a defect or variation problem. But if it's a waste type of problem where it's costing too much and takes too long, well, then it's really a lean project and not a Six Sigma process. One of the interesting things that happened when I came over to HR, they asked me to look at how they manage the portfolio of projects. So we pulled data on our top 22 projects. And we never found a project we didn't like. So we started everything. And then we insisted, not me personally, but the function, well, they all must be PEX projects. And they all must be DMAIC projects. And I go, why? What problem are you solving? You have identified the core problem in those projects. You're just saying that this must be the solution because the company advocates it. So if you misapply the methodology to the wrong problem, well, you're basically messed up. It's just not going to help. So actually what happened was they went back, we reevaluated all the projects. The first thing we did was we stopped the bottom half so that we could actually focus on something. And then we went back to the core problem in each project and said, well, what are we trying to solve? Isn't it really a PEX project? Is it really a DMAIC project? And a lot of them were not. Amy Jo, did you have something to add?
Yes, yes, that actually was part of it. As far as Six Sigma is very powerful for appropriate problems to solve, just like Steve said. And it's really, you know, reducing variability, reducing defects. Those are really when we use Six Sigma. Another perception of Six Sigma that I've heard is that, well, I don't have time for that. It takes too long. So there are two elements of that. One is a lot of times people want to jump in on improve without defining the problem, measuring the baseline, and identifying root cause. And so people feel like they're getting to a solution quickly, yet because they want to start with improve, they don't want to have to do that background stuff. but a lot of times, if you're just going out and changing things, if you're typically not actually addressing the root cause, and so it takes longer because you just keep changing things and finding out nothing's working, or if it's working, it might be temporary or something like that. And then another part of it taking too long is, well, I have to all of these tools. And so when you think about a project, you're not required to use all of the tools that you're taught. In fact, you shouldn't. But as you learn more about this, the idea is that you can identify what is the most efficient and effective tool to solve the current problem in front of me so I can work through the project as efficiently as possible. So exactly what Steve said as far as make sure you use it when appropriate and when it's an appropriate problem to solve. And Six Sigma is typically reducing variability and reducing defects, reducing scrap, all those kinds of things. And then also when you implement it, make sure you're using the most effective and efficient tools to be able to solve the problem that's been identified. So a couple kind of feedback that sometimes I get is like, I don't have time for that. Like, well, you don't have time to not use that. So to understand the root cause and be able to really understand what that is and solve the right problem.
Awesome. Okay, then we can move on to the next question, which is, can you share some of the most exciting projects that you've been a part of?
Okay, so I'll share one of mine. So one of the things, so I used to, back in the early part of my career, I would always lead the project. And then when I implemented performance excellence in New Hampshire, I shifted more to coaching a lot of other great belts who led projects. And one of the things that I really learned through that process is as long as you have a well-defined problem statement, goal statement, and a cross-functional team, you will improve the process. The solution might not always be the same, but you will be improving the process and implementing. So it's really neat to see all the different projects there that are implemented. One that I really enjoyed that I led when I was at Fairport was about how do we transfer products from engineering into manufacturing. And we had a really engaged team for this, putting together this process. And a lot of what we put together, and it was actually a design process, so developing a process, not Six Sigma reducing variability, but a performance excellence project. And we came up with these really complete and thorough checklists and processes, and to help make sure that as engineering completed their work, how do we make sure this gets transferred efficiently and effectively to manufacturing so manufacturing can then repeatably make the product. And one of the neat things I liked about that one was that then a year later, you know, all of those detailed processes that we created started to feel cumbersome because those things that we felt we had to detail out in a really detailed way, people were like, well, yeah, we know that. and so we then went through a second time and were able to improve it again and make it more streamlined and kind of, you know, clarify and streamline some of the checklist forms and get them all into one format and something more usable for the folks. So what I really liked about that was we had a great cross-functional team. It was a lot of great participation, a lot of buy-in and organization from the plant and the division engineers. And then the fact that we went back and improved it again. And that is really awesome because the idea of control and the idea of is that when you whatever you implement, it sticks. And it's perfectly fine to go back again, but then to pick it up from where you left it and be able to take it and continue to improve it. Instead of going back and continuing to solve the same problem again and again. But if you don't control well, then you're like doing rework. So it was really great involvement. It was really neat to see the results. And then it was really neat that it sustained so well that we were then able to continue to improve it and continue to make it better. So that was neat for the project itself, and then the progression and the engagement and continued development.
Yeah, can I take a shot at that question, Jessica?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so rather than answer in terms of the most exciting projects, there's really a big dichotomy between running projects and doing ongoing operations. Now, ongoing operations are, it's very important, but I find it boring. After I've done the same thing 2, 3, or 4 times, yeah, we close the books, yeah, we got to do it every month. I just find it boring. But I find projects incredibly rewarding because no matter what kind of project it is, if you've managed it well and you've contributed, at the end, you've delivered something of value. And I just find that incredibly rewarding. In terms of the most exciting projects, sometimes they're small and sometimes they're very big. We finished up one last year. We put in a workforce analytics system, which is just a data extraction and reporting tool. It's very slick on top of TrueBlue. And, we delivered everything we said we were going to deliver, plus some extras, on time and under budget. And the team, and we all left as friends. So that's what I love about projects. Did you do what you said you were going to do? And at the end of the day, did you, get to know some new people? Are you colleagues? And would you consider yourself friends at the end? So anyways, that's why I love projects. And I don't really have a specialty. I've done pure performance excellence projects. I helped put in a payroll system in Mexico when we converted from PeopleSoft to SuccessFactors. And that was an incredibly interesting project, mostly because they have 14,000 people that had to get paid, and they were first, right? And they get paid weekly. So if you mess that one up, you've really upset a huge chunk of the workforce. And it was in Mexico, which made it more interesting. So anyway, the people on the project were absolutely wonderful. They all came through. I learned a little Spanish, maybe 5 or 6 words, and they were very patient with me. But I would sign up for another project with them in a heartbeat. So anyway, that's how I would answer it. I love projects, and I just love the excitement of them. They're all different, and I find them incredibly rewarding. That's all I had.
All right, awesome. How do you identify which tools are most effective and efficient to use when attacking a problem? Does this skill come from experience?
Hideki, do you want to start that, or do you want one of us to start it?
Yeah, good. That it's definitely experience, I think. So the first thing I mentioned it earlier too is that you have to have good data. So you want to start with good data, and then any analysis you do and any tools that you use going to be help you solve the right problems or solve the problems correctly. So I focus on getting good data. And when you have set of data, solicit help with statistician if it's complicated, or just look at the data in many different ways. And then from there, the tools are for analyzing, tools for choosing the next steps, tools are for picking the picking the next steps. I said that picking different things that you can try doing the right experiment. So there are a lot of different tools in different situations, but I think Amy Jo mentioned that you don't have to use all the tools. You don't have to know all the tools. I'm sure there are some go-to tools that you're going to use as a first defense, but you go to other people and have them help you with maybe different ways to look at the data or to choose the next steps. I do I do like the collaboration of people. I think this is where the team members could interject. I mean, this is brainstorming is another way to have different ideas, using different approaches. So, there isn't always a right tool, the right tool either. So it's okay to use different things to do, try to get what you want. But ultimately, you're trying to solve the problem, get to the bottom of it, really understand the cause of the issue or the cause of the root cause identification. So I don't think that I don't think you have to be stuck on using a tool. So just get a lot of people to help you around. There's going to be people around you to help. So tap into that resource. I think there are tools online to ask. There are tools to look for experts, right? So those are tools that you can utilize to help you.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, do you recommend completing Six Sigma certification while you're in school or wait until you've worked in the industry?
This is Steve. I don't know how you would complete it in school because usually the certifications require work experience. And Six Sigma, just like project management training, it's not about learning as much as doing. You know, the purpose is that you'll learn how to do something. It's like saying you'll learn how to play a musical instrument or a sport or drive a car without ever actually doing it. So I'm all for training and I'm all for education. To the extent that you can pick up knowledge in school, that's wonderful. But it's really about the application of that knowledge to produce better results. And that requires experience.
Yeah, so all different, that's one of the things. There are a lot of different certifications out there, right? So some schools offer them, ASQ offers them, a whole bunch of different professional organizations offer them. And it's always great to learn what you can in school. But then even like when employees and folks come to join Corning, we would still ask someone who learned information in school to complete the DMAIC Greenbelt training within Corning for a couple reasons, because that helps provide the Corning verbiage and examples and knowledge, but then also, as Steve said, it connects into delivering projects within Corning to complete the Corning certification. So always a great thing to learn. And to have that foundation, yet there's that continuing to build on it too. So good stuff.
Awesome, thank you. So why choose Six Sigma certification over other lean management techniques to have a career in quality management? Then they go on to ask, why is it regarded so highly? As a student to have career opportunities in quality management, what steps should I take? So maybe we'll break that into two questions. So the first part will be, why choose Six Sigma certification over other lean management techniques to have a career in quality management? Why is it regarded so highly?
Is it okay if I roll those together, Jessica?
Oh, yeah, those two can be rolled together. I'll do the third question. She actually has three, so I'll do the third question as a separate one.
Go ahead, Amy Jo, you're on a roll.
Oh, yeah, this one's so, yeah, it's lovely. These are such great questions, everyone. Great job. Okay, so this one, this one speaks to me a lot. So it's like I'm DMAIC or Six Sigma certified, along with Lean Greenbelt certified, and also have had roles in quality. So it's not one or the other. To go back to what was shared earlier, it's what's the problem to solve. So if you're looking to solve how do I reduce variability, how do I reduce defects, well, then we use our Six Sigma approaches and DMAIC approaches. If it's, hey, I want to be able to reduce cycle time or reduce inventory levels, or then it's like, okay, or reduce the non-value add in a process, well, then we use our lean approaches. And I think Becky, she lost the signal, but Becky is certified and an instructor in what we call product quality architecture, which is all about how do you design in quality up front to ensure and understand your key input variables to be able to make sure that what we make will meet our customer requirements. So there are different methodologies, but they answer different questions. Just like there's also, Steve is an expert in project management overall with the Project Management Council and such. So never feel limited to just one. It's always, the more skills you have in your toolkit, the more you can be able to answer different and solve different types of problems. So, and then there's lean management, which also goes into production systems and things like that. And how do you, operate, and interact in the production floor and solve problems. So different applications, different methodologies to solve different types of problems. And then as far as quality management, career opportunities and what steps should I take? So, I don't know if there, and please feel free to comment, add anything here that I'm missing, as far as if there are any degrees in quality. People that I've found in quality or things like that, but I like process engineers, engineers in general. Industrial engineering is, I think, awesome for quality because industrial engineering is all about systems and system optimization and systems improvement, and quality systems are another system. So how does it all relate? Statistics, data understanding, all of those kinds of things. And really any understanding of those systems and processes and things like that. Then I see a lot of people coming in as like quality engineers and other types of roles like that, or quality control to help understand those systems more. But there are ISO standards out there. They're fun reading if you ever want to read about those, and there's some for quality. So some initial ideas. A lot of process approach and systems approach, that mindset is really helpful in the quality role. Anything else y'all would add? Is Becky still off, Jessica? Because she would have great information for this one too.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's having connectivity issues, so I think she got kicked out. Yeah, I just checked; she's not on, so sorry.
That's it. Yeah. Becky's awesome. She's in our quality and statistics engineering group. Just another reason for awesomeness. And so she's had a lot of experience with everything from new products through to established products to transferring products from one site to another, of how do we leverage those appropriate quality tools and PQA tools to make sure we truly understand the process and can consistently meet the customer requirements. Cool thing about quality is you are the voice of the customer in the plant. So you meet with the external customer a lot, and you have your requirements coming through in your specifications, but whenever you have the ongoing discussions about quality or delivery needs or things like that, you are that connection. So it's really cool to be both customer facing and then also plant facing. So and I could go on for a while, so I'll stop now.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you. Okay, so since we actually answered all three of the questions, then moving on, does Corning give the opportunity to get Six Sigma certification by offering a project experience while being a student?
This is Steve. None that I know of, because really, if you're a Corning employee on the certification path, you need to be connected to your business, to your plant, to your PEX champion. You need to have a coach, typically a black belt or a master black belt. And the idea is all the things that you've learned, you apply them to a project to deliver results. And then as you've learned more, you do more projects for Corning. So I'm not aware of any times that we would allow us, that we would have an opportunity for a student to do it.
I think because the cycle time, the amount of time it takes to kind of work through all those steps are usually longer than a summer or something like that.
And probably not as a summer intern. If you have a co-op with something that you're here for longer, maybe. But
yeah, those could be options. Yeah. Great question.
So come and join us when you graduate, and you could get on a project and work towards certification.
There you go.
Couldn't resist.
Oh, I'm on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Thank you for that answer. And next question is, why did Corning decide to implement this Six Sigma DMAIC process?
And I've been with the Corning a long time, and so is Hideki. My understanding is back in the early 80s, late 70s, Corning was having some significant quality problems and some very upset customers. So Jamie Houghton started us on this total quality management path. That's why when you look at our values, we still have quality as one of our core values. So I think it got started, and that was before my time, in response to problems we were having in the marketplace. And since then, Corning has embraced it, and we've relabeled it and rebranded it and broadened the tool set. But fundamentally, Corning embraces we're going to do things right first time and then every time. And frankly, for all of you interns, if you don't find a company that does that, they're headed for failure. That's all.
Got to work at being more straight shoot, you know, be a little straighter in your communication, Steve.
A little straighter. For all of you interns, I have a reputation that I must live up to of being totally direct.
Awesome, thank you. So since all of you are in various stages of the black belt process, what does it take to earn your black belt? So can you talk a little more about your experience there?
To earn it.
Hideki, do you want to go? Want me to?
No, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead, Amy Jo. You have all the details, I think, with the latest.
Oh. So as Corning defines black belt, so we actually have black belt in both product quality architecture, PQA, and Six Sigma or DMAIC. And so Corning defines, there's the yellow belt, what you've been participating in, which is really an introduction of the tools and the concepts. And then green belt is more of, okay, now let's start applying this. And let's start understanding those concepts of define, measure, define the problem, measure the baseline and your measurement capability, analyze, identify root cause, improve, so you can identify improvements and control. So it's more about the application of those into actual projects. And then black belt, the way Corning defines it, will then include in a deeper understanding of concepts like linear regression, additional hypothesis testing, design of experiments. So you're going beyond single one prime root cause analysis into more of interactions and understanding the interactions between those inputs. So black belt is more of what are those interactions and what are those additional level skills, some of which you might very well have been learning in school or things like that, depending on your programs. So, and then as a green belt, across the company, the expectations for certification is that you're at least a belt on the project. And then as a black belt, you're usually expected to also lead the project. So you also need to learn some project management skills and other types of how to manage those skills of how to effectively manage a project. So in addition to the problem solving, making sure that you're managing the project effectively, being that primary person, engaging with the sponsor and the stakeholders and things like that. So it's both a deeper level of statistical and problem solving knowledge combined with the leadership side and leading the project and being that key interaction point and being ultimately responsible for the deliverables, making sure you're delivering the results on time within budget, hopefully. Anything else y'all would add?
Yeah, I'd add a few things. The training is absolutely critical and it's important, but Corning views green belt, black belt, master black belt as a role. And the goal is that you'll become more proficient and more experienced in solving real world problems. And as you fulfill the green belt role, hopefully some of you or some of the people in green belt will then go the extra mile and learn how to be a black belt for the company. And that role involves, like Amy Jo said, leading projects, coaching other people, broader application of tools, application of the more demanding and difficult tools. So it's not so much a training, which is critical, but it's really about fulfilling a role for the company and then producing results for the company.
Awesome, thank you. When Corning hires a student intern or a co-op, what basic knowledge do you expect him or her to know of quality management? And then how should they get that knowledge? Sorry, I heard somebody say something, so I didn't know if I didn't mean to talk over you.
I can go again. I need to do all the talking. I don't think we expect you to know anything about total quality management other than it exists. First-rate companies embrace it because we will train you. Now, the more knowledge you bring to the company, the better. But again, it's really about applying that knowledge. So if you've at least heard the terms about Six Sigma or Lean or total quality management or continuous improvement, that's wonderful, and you have some basic understanding of it. But new people coming into the company, we expect to train them.
Now, so in my department, so I'm the industrial lean engineering manager. So when I bring in engineers straight from school, I am looking for people that have at least a familiarity and application of some lean concepts and or some type of quality, Six Sigma. So, and then since the industrial engineering, discrete event simulation, capacity analysis, those kinds of things within that discipline. So, but, so I think what you get from that too, though, it really depends on the role for which you're applying and the role of which you're interested. So since that's what our group provides for the company, I am looking for, I'm not looking for, I don't expect people to know everything, but exposure is nice. And because then you can continue to develop and build knowledge on top of that. So yes, how do you expect someone to get that knowledge? So there was an earlier comment about there is some of the training out there. So doing some of that Six Sigma training, or I partner with Penn State and they have an industrial engineering senior class, which is DMAIC Six Sigma, well, Six Sigma, not DMAIC class. So there are classes that are out there to kind of get that. Having Six Sigma or not having Six Sigma is not a showstopper, but it would be a plus up as far as looking through resumes and candidates and things like that. So there are classes that are out there, and there also are professional organizations that provide that information as far as where you can find that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy Jo, because if we're looking for process engineers, well, that's a different expectation than, kind of general employees that we're hiring.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
All right, thank you. So one final question. What is one piece of advice, so I would like if everybody could answer this, what is one piece of advice you would give to students as they start their career? So it can be specific to Six Sigma or just general career advice.
Oh, start your career with a great company like Corning. It is a great company. Everybody knows that. Anyway, well, you asked for my one piece of advice. Now everybody's laughing at me. Thank you very much.
You're consistent. We're laughing with you, Steve. You're consistent, and that's wonderful.
I like the way you danced around that one. That was a serious answer, by the way.
Yeah, it is. So for what I would say, actually, I have two sets. One is just in general, starting your career. I would say just be open and be flexible. I was early on, I got a lot of opportunities. I was in the plant. There were opportunities that came my way. I was fortunately able to live up to it and get a next opportunity. But looking back, I probably took positions that I wasn't even ready for, but they were willing to try me and train me, right? But be flexible to open to opportunities that are around you. Look around. Don't set yourself. Like I said, I thought I was going to go back and get an advanced degree in a couple of years, and I even said that in the interview. And looking back, who wants to hear you're going to leave in 2 years when you're hiring someone? But they took a chance, and I didn't go back. So it's just it changes. There are opportunities that are coming your way, and then the season, and you can always change. It's going to be hard for me to change after 30 years, but there's always new things that I could try. Around the Six Sigma and quality stuff, I mentioned already, but just use data, collect good data, analyze data, be honest about data analysis and conclusions. Try and look at the data in different ways. It tells you a lot, and it's not going to tell you everything, but it tells you a lot, right? So use data to make your decisions. Be my my advice.
Excellent. And so to build on both of those, so I always like to keep as many doors open as possible for as long as you can. So be open to new ideas, be open to exploring. And then also, sometimes we think about the jobs and things like that, like titles and things like that. But in addition to the job titles that we have, think about the experiences that you're having and the experiences that you can get as far as working in a large plant or a small plant or a large business or a small or a startup business or perhaps different types of products, whether it's healthcare or manufacturing or things like that. So thinking about your career as both roles and deliverables, but then also those experiences that you're having as you go through all of those. And they're working in different businesses and locations. And that's one of those things I really like about Corning is that we have more than 70 locations around the world. So, and 5 key, process access platforms. And so it's a lot of businesses and a lot of locations. You can get all those different experiences within one company, which is really cool. So keeping the doors open, be open to ideas, to roles, to experiences, all of those different areas.
Awesome. Steve, we actually have a question for you specifically, and this can be our last one before we wrap it up, but the student asked, if I'm looking for project management roles just outside of college, what knowledge do you expect us to have? What would be your advice?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, my son is he's down at Virginia Tech, and he's getting his master's in mechanical engineering, and he was trying to figure out what elective to take, so I encouraged him to take a project management course. The difficulty with that is, how do you apply it if you're not running a project? The plus side is at least you come in to an organization with some knowledge about, what it's like to run a project. So if you had a chance to take an introductory project management course while in college, I'd encourage it. But then the real test will come, you get your first job, you settle in, and then volunteer to be on a project and assume, kind of a significant role, maybe as a team lead or a group lead or some leadership role in it, and then transition to leading your own project. I think it's difficult for someone to try to lead a project immediately after college without knowledge of the organization and how to run a team. So that's all I had to say, but if you're interested, by all means, take an introductory project management course. If you get a chance to run something in college, any kind of volunteer organization, go for it.
Awesome. And then we did have one more question sneak in. Do you have any specific advice to international applicants?
Well, we hire around the world, and we also hire foreign nationals in the U.S. Of course, the whole visa thing, especially now, is just a nightmare. But go for it. If you're interested in Corning, by all means, look at us. I think we're out of time. Anyway, any closing remarks? Who haven't we heard from? Hideki, Amy Jo, we hear from everybody? Mm-hmm. I like to talk, so I can keep going.
Well, we do have another session scheduled tomorrow, so I'm really excited about that. And I just want to say thank you to our participants for attending, and then thank you, Amy, Steve, and Hideki, so much for your time and your valuable insight. The students really, really appreciate it, as does our team. So thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing more from you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.